Hello, and welcome to Financial Fluence, where we'll teach you the most up-to-date strategies and tricks for making money online. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on the notification bell to be notified every time a new video is uploaded. Also, don't forget to leave a comment down below. In this video, we'll talk about why family fortunes disappear. John D. Rockefeller was the first billionaire in the world and the richest American to ever live. He was also a founding member of the 3 Club. He was reportedly worth $1 billion at the height of his success a few years before his passing. This may not sound like much compared to today's tech bros, but it was back when the US GDP was just $39.1 billion annually. This meant that his wealth represented 3% of the GDP of the United States. This would give old John D here a wealth of $450 billion when adjusted for inflation to 2020 dollars, or more than Bill, Jeff, and Elon put together. Where is the fortune now though? Naturally, John passed away about a century ago. But if there was any fortune that would permanently secure future generations, it would be this one, wouldn't it? The same is true for the majority of these historical magnates. Save for perhaps a few names emblazoned on random structures. Everyone's wealth, from Carnegie to the Medici, has largely fallen into oblivion. Buildings, mind you, that they don't even own. You might be thinking right now that you already know the answer. After all, these fortunes were divided among children, children's children, and children's children's children, until they were so dispersed among later generations that they were essentially irrelevant. But that's not really accurate. The underlying cause of the collapse of these financial empires may also reveal important information about how money functions today and has functioned throughout history. Therefore, we need to address the fact that yes, wealthy couples with multiple children will typically divide that money up equally between them, all in order to address the usual explanation for this phenomenon of missing fortunes. Of course, there are exceptions, but this is the usual practice. Since John D. Rockefeller had 5 children, his fortune was quickly divided. This was before business moguls' philanthropic bequests. Even after inflation, the 1/5 stake made these youngsters astronomically wealthy, yet they wouldn't top Forbes' list. They'd barely make the top 10, the poor things. This rather young dynasty has more than 70 direct heirs. This deteriorated over time. The Medicis and Rothschilds have thousands of direct heirs. However, as we have shown, this really shouldn't matter. People do indeed multiply, but monetary growth occurs much more quickly. Let's use the example of Old Man Rockefeller once more. He was about 100 years old when he went away and left his estate to his children, who were also quite old. Tragically, 2 of his children had already passed away by the time of his death, which alters this equation somewhat. Despite how awful this was, it serves as a useful example because on average, millionaires in the world now typically have 3 children. When this fortune is divided by 3 and passed down, it is nearly exclusively done so in the form of family trusts that will hang on to a variety of assets rather than in cash. The problem with assets is that they frequently increase in value. In the years after John D's passing in 1937, stocks in the biggest oil corporations in the world and a sizable portfolio of prestigious real estate would have performed exceptionally well. To make matters clear, if we simply kept the Rockefeller inheritance, which was approximately $1 billion in 1937, extensively invested until now, we can use market returns to demonstrate that this fortune would have increased to more than $4.2 trillion, which implies that if the 25 direct surviving beneficiaries were distributed equally, they should all be among the richest people in the world. This disregards the fact that their primary investment was in oil, which has recently outperformed the market as a whole. This ought to apply twice as much to older and potentially wealthier families like the Medicis and Rothschilds, who have had more time to accumulate riches, but of course it hasn't. What's going on, and where did this money really go? There are 4 reasons for this. It was given away, removed from them, too difficult to monitor, and it just didn't develop as you might have expected. During his lifetime and after his death, Rockefeller Sr. donated a sizable portion of his wealth. These contributions helped to fund a wide range of humanitarian endeavors, including national parks, museums, and educational institutions. His surviving children carried on this task by donating nearly half of their individual fortunes, one after the other. This indicated that money was not being invested, but rather was simply being kept in principle. Even though this is still a significant sum of money, it shows that the wealth of the Rockefeller family was only ever able to keep up with inflation, with the remainder going primarily to charitable and political endeavors. The fact that it was taken away from them is the next problem. These fortunes have been further depleted by anything from capital gains taxes and inheritance taxes to divorce settlements. In addition, it has been very challenging to monitor the rich. For obvious reasons, unlike some other multi-generational tycoons, the family is not bragging about their wealth to Forbes magazine. There's virtually no way to say who owns what, because this wealth is now so varied and distributed among numerous family offices, managing hundreds of trusts. Consequently, they won't tell you who owns what. Even while wealthy individuals like Jeff Bezos like to keep the specifics of their wealth a secret, it is quite simple to figure out as it is mostly based on a public corporation and a number of well-known commercial activities and properties. However, there isn't a list of all the people like David Rockefeller and David Rothschild and what they own and owe, which is probably for the best. Finally, we reach the purpose for which I originally created this video. Investing has never been more profitable in the previous 150 years. In spite of the Renaissance, which saw art and science thrive once more in Europe, and the Medici family's rise to prominence in the 12th century, the economy of this region didn't actually expand all that much. The wealth of Europe barely increased at all between the Middle Ages and the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, even by the most optimistic forecasts. Most individuals are pleased to live the same life as their parents and children before them. Technical advancement and capital expenditures weren't actually concepts. Because of this, the notion that investing in the market will increase one's wealth has been a fallacy since the middle of the 19th century. This implies that human reproduction spread the family fortune without giving human reproduction a chance to catch up. There is a very strong possibility that these recent decades have been more of an anomaly than something we should take for granted, because we have grown extremely accustomed to the idea of perpetual compounding progress on an ultimately finite planet. In any case, what if you were an aspirant to the throne of finance and wished to found an enduring financial dynasty? Interestingly enough, there are institutions that focus specifically on this. For a hefty price, wealth management firms will set up family fortunes in such a way that they will virtually always remain intact. These businesses will draft wills and make investment recommendations for long-term steady growth. In order to ensure that the next generation is prepared to manage the fortune appropriately when the time comes, they will also adopt a very hands-on approach to education. A structure where the majority of the wealth is transferred to one child rather than being divided equitably and diluting it is also typically recommended by them. For good measure, and to properly create the impression of a modern monarchy, why not make this your eldest son? This kind of organization has, of course, been made possible in recent decades due to a strong financial system and an innovative world, but it's also grown very unpopular. Due to initiatives like the Giving Pledge, a significant number of the world's wealthiest people have committed to leaving the majority of their fortunes to charity after they pass away. Given that these two strategies are incompatible, it appears that giving money away will once more keep us from becoming the 17th generation of Bezos overlord slaves. What a loss! Given that they won't be around to supervise it, all of these wealthy individuals who have donated their entire lives' work to these charities likely want to ensure that the funds are used for deserving causes. And that's all! If you enjoy similar stuff, check out my other videos. And if you like it, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below. and I'll see you in the next video.